Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Do what is expedient, not what is right. Ethnic diversity and social trust, a narrative and meta-analytical review. I tried recording this earlier, but didn't record, but hey, I can only blame myself. That is what extreme ownership is, after all, according to Jocko Willink. That if something bad happens, then it is your fault. If somebody doesn't understand something, it's your fault for not explaining it. Take blame, give credit, and all that. So this whole ethnic diversity thing, that obviously I disagree that diversity is our strength, and I think it's a flaw, and it doesn't actually help. And it's one of those annoying things for anybody who is logical, and that basically means right-wing. People who are concerned with logic instead of rhetoric, that they think, well, here are the facts, so deal with it. But of course, understanding that humans are inherently emotional beings, and therefore logic won't suffice. And if you wish to persuade people, then you have to persuade them along the grounds of rhetoric, and you have to appeal to their emotions instead of their logic. You have to get them to feel a certain way. Some people you can get to feel that certain way through using logic, but more often than not, those people are just autistic. And I do not mean that in a disparaging way. I've had my own experience with being called autistic. More times than I can remember, which is ironic, because if I was autistic, I'd remember. But nonetheless, this is where we find ourselves today. This study put forward is confirming conflict theory instead of contact theory. That is to say that if you interact with people of a different ethnicity, that is not race, that is combining culture, then you are not as favourable to them as you are to people of your own culture. And that is the difference that it holds. As any long-time viewers of my channel, you 101 beautiful people might know that by now, if you interact with people and therefore have a disparaging view, that is conflict theory. If you have an encouraging view, then that is contact theory. However, people who meet somebody from an out-group are more likely to attribute that to their group status instead of their individuality, and vice versa. If you meet someone from your in-group and have a bad experience, you're more likely to attribute that to an individual instead of their group status. People are inherently tribal. And I also think that the case with sensationalist media, that someone say, well, it's the bad news that sells, it's sensationalism, and therefore saying that this bad thing is happening is what's going to sell. Whereas I take maybe it's the less cynical approach, which is to say that, hey, your tribe, because I think people are tribal more than social, your tribe is doing a good job, whereas this tribe is doing a bad job, and that's what it's saying. So sensationalism sells is saying that a bad thing is happening, which is to say this tribe which differs from yours is doing a bad job, which by process of elimination means that your tribe is doing a good job, and that's what it means. But nonetheless, let's read on from this peer-reviewed study, which is one of these lovely social psychology studies, which confirm something that they don't want to confirm. It's the same that goes for egalitarianism, which is to say that any Scandinavian country, and you know what I mean by that, even if I'm not using the correct geographic term, is that for communities which have an increase in egalitarianism, as in all individuals are treated equally and they are individuals, and they're not grouped based on their group, their identity, and identity politics is disregarded, and therefore there are equal opportunities for males and females. The theory, if you are a social justice advocate, would be to say, well, therefore we would see everybody performing equally, and there would be no differences based on sex, for example. However, in the countries where the egalitarianism is most forefront and forward, we are seeing the exact opposite, whereby the differences are most prominent based on sex. And similarly here, where people are saying, well, hey, we don't want to see any difference based on ethnicity because we like to think of every human as equal, and we are saying the opposite. And that is obvious to a third grader, as the Americans would say. that of course people are different, of course cultures are different, of course ethnicities are different, and yes, there is as much biological diversity in Africa as there is in the rest of the world. Yeah, sure, as is true with any group, that there are as many differences and as many significant differences within a set group as there are with that group compared to the out group. But nonetheless, we see a significant difference based on different ethnicities encroaching on a particular community, which of course goes against imperialism. So hey, we can all agree with that. Even though if it's right wing, it's imperialism, and if it's left wing, it's revolutionary. But nonetheless, we can see what the study proves. So here we have from these people, and okay, fine, I will try to pronounce their names. Peter Thisted Dinson, Merlin Schiffer, Kim Manama, Sanders Grove. Getting some Archie Bunker there. So, their abstract, I'll go over it briefly. Does ethnic diversity erode social trust? Yes. As I've mentioned before, communities, even if they're the same in group, after this diversity and multiculturalism occurs, then these people are still less likely to trust each other. And this is very self-evident if you look at the amount of children that are allowed to play outside these days compared to, let's say, the 60s or 70s, the whole latchkey kids, as they were called, that of course this isn't the case anymore. So what do? It says, this article reviews the existing literature on the relationship between ethnic diversity and social trust through a narrative review and a meta-analysis of 1001 estimates from 87 studies. And they say, we find a statistically significant negative relationship between ethnic diversity and social trust across all studies, but in particular, the relationship is stronger for trust in neighbours and when studied in more local contexts. Covariate conditioning generally changes the relationship only slightly. The review concludes by discussing avenues for future research. Don't care about that bit. But the point being, where it says the relationship is stronger for trust in neighbours and when studied in more local contexts, that means to say that anybody who is experiencing this multiculturalism and this diversity on a daily basis is more likely to have a disagreement with it than people who mention it from their ivory towers and people who aren't affected by it. So this has shown... sorry. If you want to change opinion polls into realism, then you can see that in America, of course, very matter-of-factly, by people saying, hey, yes, illegal immigrants, they're immigrants too, they're citizens as well, we shouldn't call them aliens. In which Donald Trump says, yes, okay, cool, we will ship them to your districts, because, hey, you like them, other people don't, let's make the world more equal and give people what they want. You want them, you've got them. To which, of course, those people say, hang on, no, we mean it's good when other people have them, not when we have them. We know that we don't want them, but we think they're good on a morality basis, but we shouldn't be held accountable to our own standards. If only people spoke of that truthfully. Wouldn't it be nice if people were actually honest? And that's why I started this with saying, do what is truthful, not what is expedient. And that is the same here. And to bring it more local to the United Kingdom, we have the great example of Lily Allen, for example, who has mentioned, yes, you should bring asylum seekers over, and they should be given a place here. To which the response is, of course, yes, but where are they going to stay? Why don't you take them? So, of course, she'll say, lol, no. And then people who do take them in are then robbed, if not murdered. But hey, enough of that. And in case you're wondering, that's not racial profiling, because I did not say where they come from. So, take that. And then you're going to take it to the whole, oh, did you think I was black? I'm actually white. Or vice versa. Oh, like that radio interview, I forget who it was, but Dave Rubin interviewed him recently. The guy who was saying he did well through the radio job, and the interviewer said, oh, that's white privilege talking. And he says, hang on, I'm black. She's like, oh damn, that's because my handlers didn't tell me properly that you were black. I was like, hang on, couldn't this actually be that your view on the world is incorrect? And that's never addressed, because her people said, hey, can we have like a a review on this? Can we have another talk to actually go over this in more detail? To which his guy said, yeah, of course, yeah, go for it. I mean, you know, people make mistakes, and I understand that you might have done so. So hey, if you want to talk and explain yourself, then you're more than welcome. That's fine. To which her people went, oh shit, they called our bluff. Well, no, we're gonna get the fuck out of this. That's GTFO right now. GTFO RN, yes. But anyway, back to the study. As much fun as I'm having, which is why I should really do more long form stuff. But hey, you need 1,000 subscribers to do live videos, to do some live chats. So come on, guys, we're at 101. Let's make this to quadruple figures. So, Figure 1, forest plot of study pooled estimates of the relationship between ethnic diversity and trust. So what this is showing is note 87, study pooled partial correlation coefficients with associated 95% confidence intervals, so a p of less than 0.05, as in based on chance. Intervals based on 1,001 estimates. The complete bibliography is found, whatever. So this is where the factor that it is actually by chance and it isn't significant is 1 in 20 or 5% or 0.05. So we have an outlier at the top of Marshall and Stroller of 2004, which is quite far right, the irony. And of course we have an outlier at the bottom left, H.A. Kansen, Stockholm, whatever, 2007. But most of them fall within this middle bit, and they presume a nice little line graph with the overall meta-analysis estimate, of course, lying here at about 0.05. So that's about negative 5%. So that's conflict theory. That is to say that introducing different ethnicities into a community reduces the amount of trust and decreases the enjoyment found within that community. And in case you're wondering, oh yes, but is that just because people are xenophobic and therefore they're thinking, well, when these people come in, we're going to have less trust? Well, actually, no. This just shows the effect that it has when people are closer than further away. So we have, we'll ignore other for the time being, just to put things in perspective. We have neighbours at about 0.037. In group, so people of the same group as you, of course, at about 0.02. And out group, so people of a different group of you, of about 0.013, and then the other, however you wish to define that, at about 0.028, 0.29, something like that, and the generalized preference of about negative 0.08, let's say. Let's be lenient there, let's be conservative. Oh, the irony. So the funny thing here is, of course, that this is to suggest with in-group and out-group preferences. We all know that almost everybody prefers people who belong to their own group, and that is depending on whatever line you wish to draw. And I know Tim Paul recently mentioned something to do with ice cream because, hey, he loves ice cream metaphors, and he's talking about chocolate ice cream, and he's talking about the art of the deal as well in terms of negotiation, and that's probably something that should be taught more at school. That is to say that you can't build agreement on disagreement, and that's Grant Cardone. But the point being, you agree with somebody on the premise, and then you might take it to an extreme to get the original person to disagree with it in order to win them around to your side. So I think he mentions ice cream and then Obama. So let's go with Obama. To say, somebody there says, Obama was the best president ever, in which you'll say, yes, he was. I love the way that he did unprecedented amounts of drone strikes on innocent civilians, which point someone will say, well, hang on, maybe he wasn't that good. In which case you bring them back from their original position by doing something that is more hyperbole than what they originally mentioned. And that's the point here. But the in-group being higher than the out-group is particularly interesting to me, at least, because it suggests that people who joined the particular community through the legal ways and try to assimilate and become one with the community they are joining and wish to be affiliated with, and it isn't multiculturalism, but they wish to join that monoculture, that they then have a greater disdain for people of their own group than people of their out group. As in, people who came in the legal ways, the honest ways, and wish to assimilate to whatever, let's use England, the English way of life, then have a greater disdain for people of their own group, people like them, than they do of their out group, which is particularly interesting. And that's been shown through other studies as well, that as much as British people, or English people, may dislike foreigners coming in and taking over their own lifestyles, it is particularly prevalent through foreigners, immigrants, who have come over the legal ways, wish to become a Briton, and then find other people coming in after them not assimilating like they did, because hey, they made the conscious choice of moving to this country, not being born in this country, but actually moving to this country because they like this way of life. And I like Japan, so I'd like to move there. It's the same thing. I want to move to Japan because I really like the Japanese way of living. I don't want to move to Japan and then make it England, otherwise I wouldn't move. Unless, they have a great social welfare state, but hey, that's another issue of why we should be more like claim. But that's an issue for another video, of which I've already made a few of, so hey, you can look through my back catalogue. And please do, I need the watch time. So let's look at another graph. Meta-estimates of the relationship between ethnic diversity and social trust for different context sizes. So this is to do with how big is your community, so this goes back to saying not in my backyard, or NIMBY, essentially. So we have the smallest neighbourhood, which is the most negative, then municipality or region, which is middling negative, and then country, which is least negative. Nonetheless, it's all negative. Isn't that interesting? So let's go down to the next graph, and this is to make it not as bad. This is to adjust it to different negatives to say, hey, actually, it isn't the people themselves, it's because of the things that they do, which, as far as I'm concerned, is ethnicity. Because ethnicity is not race, it is a way of living. It is culture imbued within the psyche. But maybe that's getting too meta. So, figure 4, meta, yay! Estimates of the relationship between ethnic diversity and social trust conditioned on covariates. So we have inter-ethnic contacts, self-explanatory different ethnicities. As I say, without any of the above adjustments, we have about, what do we got here? Negative 0.041.2, something like that. We got contextual. Yeah, okay, let's go on. That is any individual disadvantage. We have diversity predictions of several diversity predictors to try and make it more lenient, and so on, as you can see. Nonetheless, they're all far left. Oh, the irony! I love this, just for the irony. So, moving on, we will get to their conclusions. Actually, I don't care for their conclusions, I care for their results. I think I've scrolled past, haven't I? Okay, so basically, in terms of psychological or social science experiments, the results are what is the case, and then the conclusions are what can be drawn from that. I don't care so much for the conclusions because I trust in your own intelligence to know what you can draw from it, but the results are important because they just state the facts, and that is the matter. Because as you can see here, it says directions for future research, and don't care. They basically say, oh, is it ethnicity, or is it something else? Don't care, really fucking don't care. That's for you to decide, because you are intelligent people, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this channel. Am I right? So let's look at the first 4 findings. 5th we have time, but I don't really give a shit. So, summary of empirical evidence and providing a best estimate. So these are the results. So you've seen the graphs, here are the words. In summary, the meta-analysis has generated several insights speaking to various aspects of the debates in the literature presented earlier. First, as a baseline result, across all studies, we observe a statistically significant negative relationship between ethnic diversity and social trust of moderate size. Yes. So that is to say that on average there is negative trust if there is ethnic diversity, and the smaller the community, the more it happens. That's what they're saying. In fact, we may as well just read the italicized text. So, second, ethnic diversity thus matters more for trust in people in one's immediate residential setting, but the effect also extends beyond the setting to trust in other people in general. That is to say what I said earlier, that if you have a bad relationship with somebody of an out-group, you are more likely to attribute that to their out-group status than their individual. So let's make this racial, because we know that doesn't make the YouTube algorithm hate you, but I've only got 101 subscribers for like 160 videos, so it can't do any worse. So Leicester say, Leicester cheese, red Leicester. Leicester say you are white and you have a bad relationship with someone who is white, you will probably think, well, that white person is a cunt. Actually, you're more likely to say, that person is a cunt, and I hate them, I want to have nothing to do with them. Then you'll meet another white person and think, let's treat this person individually. But if you're white to meet someone who is black and they're a cunt, you're more likely to think, hey, black people are cunts, I want nothing to do with black people, for example. But the same goes for ideology differences. That you could say, oh yes, I met with this conservative person, and they seem very reasonable, even though they disagree with me, that at least they're based in logic, and therefore we can have a constructive conversation and disagreement. And then you meet someone who's a left-wing libtard. Fucking hell, I don't know what they're smoking, but I want some. Legalize it now, please, libertarianism for the win. And then you think, well, they were completely off their rocker, that's because they're left-wing, and therefore I want nothing to do with left wings and they must be stupid. Not that it's an individual basis, that's what it means. I'm sure you know that by now. Christ, if you were here for clickbait, you've picked the wrong fucking channel. And third, proximity to interethnic others is an important facilitating condition, accentuating the negative relationship between ethnic diversity and social trust. That is to say that if you have a negative feeling towards a particular race of person, if you interact with them, you're more likely to feel negative than positive. Again, that goes back to the ivory towers, but hey, let's not make this video too long. Fourth, to properly assess confounding and or mediation, researchers should sequentially add control variables, tapping social disadvantage or otherwise with ambiguous causal connections to ethnic diversity and models of social trust. That's basically saying, let's play the race card. Let's say we're doing badly because of our race and not because of our individual actions, so they can fuck off. Fifth, at present, including several typically highly correlated diversity predictors to parse out different theoretical mechanisms will often lead to an underestimation of the effect of ethnic diversity on social trust. So that is to say, even if they included the race card, it underestimates the effect of, the negative effect of ethnic diversity and multiculturalism in any given community. So, there we go. That is it. Because they didn't account for people who actually assimilate, because that would be the same ethnicity, and that's what I fucking love about this study, is that they don't mention race at all. It's all to do with ethnicity, so we're not racist, you can go fuck yourself. So that is to say that people of the same ethnicity, that is sharing the same common values and culture, they do fine with each other, but people who have different values don't agree and don't get on so well. But as far as I'm concerned, that should be just an ignorable prize. Ignorable prize as in reward for the most obvious. As in, hang on, people who have different values on a core basis disagree with each other? Who would have fucking guessed? Oh my god! People who think everybody should live equally, despite what they believe, and then people who think you should strike the infidel at their neck where you find them, if they're atheist, Christian, or Jew. Oh, hang on, these don't seem compatible. One says, live and let live. The other says, live and let die if you're atheist, Christian, or Jewish. But hey, that's Muhammad for you. Clearly a prophet. So without this being too pointed at Islam, I'm going to wrap up now. But I've had a lot of fun reading this, but maybe that's just my academic autistic mind. Maybe just academic. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I do appreciate the support. It's been almost 6 months now, bloody hell. So thank you for your support, and I do appreciate it. Thank you for your recommendations as well. Sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing. I know that I do mention controversial topics, and therefore you're less comfortable sharing it around, but hey, I'm going to keep going at this video every single day. We're going to make it happen, and we're going to get into quadruple digits before soon. Just need a shout out from someone like Sargon or Academic Agent. So we'll see what we can do. Hopefully I'll be on one of his live streams soon. Thank you, and have a good evening. I hope you enjoyed your weekend as well.